amazing how quickly things are moving in San Diego. Danielle Van Dam disappeared at the beginning of February, found a month later. Already, jury selection is underway in the capital murder trial of David Westerfield. And some big news surrounding some rulings. Judge Mudd said yes to questions about the Van Dam's lifestyle. He's also letting jurors see computer pornography found in Westerfield's home. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney Bill Nemo and former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of California, Chuck LaBella. Gentlemen, thanks so much. Chuck, let me start with you. Interesting questions, asking jurors, do you log on to the internet chat rooms? Can you look at graphic, decomposed body pictures? Have you ever been exposed to explicit sex acts or sexual pictures? It sounds like the judge is really going to open the door to the entire inquiry here.
Well, but that's just the jury questionnaire. They're trying to find people who can be fair and impartial, so they want to flesh out all the possible issues that may come up. Those are clearly going to be part of the body of evidence that the government, the people present. So I think it's appropriate. And what
do you think about the judge ruling that the pornography case could be tried contemporaneously?
Right.
Were you surprised?
No. I thought, it's hard. It's hard to sort of second guess all these things because the prosecutors and the defense have done a marvelous job, really, and they've been subject to gag orders. But there have been no leaks, and the legal strategy and the thinking and the papers submitted are pretty well closely held. So it's. But it doesn't surprise me. The ruling doesn't surprise me.
Well, Bill, I considered it part and parcel, and you really couldn't talk about the murder unless you got into the pornography. But from a defense attorney's point of view, that has to be a bit of a devastating ruling.
Well, I thought it was a great tactical move by the prosecution to to put it in as a charge to begin with, because if they hadn't have done that and they tried to get it in as character evidence later, they may have had a real hard time. So what they did is they charged it together and then forced the defense to try to separate it out. But I think Feldman's a good enough lawyer that he can tackle this. He's going to first tackle it in the voir dire. He's going to find out people that are so overwhelmed by pornography that they might not be able to be fair, and then he's going to try to get it across. Can you listen to the fact that someone has seen pornography or is into pornography? Does that make them a killer in your mind? I think he'll be very effective in separating that out so he isn't convicted on the basis of his character.
Well, absolutely. They're going to get off for cause. Anyone who says, I can't watch, or anyone who is so despicable as to look at pornography is guilty of something in my mind. Those guys are gone for cause. What about going into the Van Dam's lifestyle, though, Bill?
Well, I think it's an interesting question because in some ways a person's lifestyle is sort of irrelevant to the fact that their daughter died. But in this case, and like Chuck LaBella said, the gag order has prevented us from really knowing exactly what we're talking about here. But it's obvious that from what I've heard, that we're talking about a swinging lifestyle. In other words, swapping sexual partners, meeting at bars, bringing them home. This is the kind of activity that if you do over a period of time, you're going to be bringing people into your world that, number one, might not have very good characters, that number two, you might not know their character very well, and you're giving them opportunity and access to your home and knowledge of your children.
Yeah, Chuck, what did you, when they put them on the stand in the preliminary hearing, I assumed those prosecutors wanted to get everything out, wanted to see how they handled the issues and basically let the public hear what they had to say.
Absolutely. So it's not, now it's old news. And I think the strategy really worked. It is old news now. And that is not, as Bill said, that's not the central issue. You have a horrific crime. You have a child that is the victim of a horrific crime. And that's going to be the central focus. And I think the prosecution very wisely did not include those questions in their questionnaire. They're conspicuously absent. And I think it's the prosecution's bent is going to be this is a non-issue. And they're going to try from jump to keep the jury's eye on the ball.
Chuck, what did you think about the speed of the trial? Because obviously the defendant didn't waive his right to a speedy trial. You think the prosecution was worried about that?
I think they had to be concerned because it's a case where a lot of forensic evidence needed to be analyzed, collected, analyzed, and processed. So it's difficult in that regard getting up to speed in 80 days. But I'm sure, as Bill said, the defense lawyers are professionals, these prosecutors are professional, and they've had their nose to the grindstone, and they're probably ready for trial.
And Bill, finally, the judge has ruled that the jury will be able to hear some of the statements that David Westerfield made during the search to the cops. And boy, Steve Feldman has been going after the police. They've lied before. These guys are not credible. It's going to be a real courtroom fight with the cops in this case, I'll bet.
I think it's going to be a courtroom fight on a number of issues. I mean, they have what they feel is a strong circumstantial evidence case with this blood and the hair and the fingerprints in the motorhome. But, you know, without anything more, without context, so what? So what that there's blood of a child in the motorhome? I mean, kids play all the time. It's a neighborhood. The motorhome could have been opened. The child could have gone in there, cut herself. I mean, it would be one thing if they had sort of semen evidence in a vaginal cavity that linked up to Westerfield. But the fact of the blood, they're going to have to really work hard to eliminate the possibility that that child was never in that motorhome before. And I think that's going to be a hard job.
You agree with that, Chuck? Last word?
No, I guess I disagree with Bill on that. I don't think it's such a hard job. I think the prosecution has a lot more than that. That's what we know. And again, let's see the evidence unfold, because this is not just two pieces of circumstantial evidence. They have this nailed, I suspect, tighter than that. But you know, it's going to be a hard-fought battle. There's no question about that. I agree with Bill.
It's going to be very interesting, but I think I'd put my money with Chuck LaBella, Bill Nimmo. Thank you very much. Now we want to remind you that Court TV's cameras will be in the courtroom for the Westerfield trial starting June 3rd. Now, coming up next, we're in verdict watch as jurors decide whether this young man, the father of Mary Kay Letourneau's children, deserves upwards of $1 million.